What's up everyone, and welcome back to the MMA Zone. Today, let's get started with Justin Gaethje calling Nate Diaz a jealous over comments. Justin Gaethje is going to get his second ever UFC lightweight title shot this upcoming weekend on May 7th in Phoenix, Arizona, when he steps into the octagon against champion Charles Oliveira. The fight will be Gaethje's second since he tapped to Khabib Nurmagomedov's triangle choke bottom in October 2020, and will prove to be the Eagles' last ever fight. Since then, the UFC put Oliveira and Michael Chandler in a fight for the vacant title, with Oliveira winning by TKO last year, and then solidifying his position as champion by tapping out Dustin Poirier this past December. Meanwhile, Gaethje beat Michael Chandler in the 2021 Fight of the Year last November, and one earned him his second title shot. But in the lead up to the bout, Gaethje stated that he's up for taking this fight wherever it goes, going so far as to say that Oliveira will need to walk through hell like Khabib did in 2020. Well, Nate Diaz is here to kind of set it all straight. Case in point, Diaz screenshotted that quote by Gaethje, which he posted on social media, with a caption that read, "Bro got triangled from the mount. What are you talking about?" Those comments clearly got back to Gaethje, who stated this on Twitter in response. "I ain't your bruh, you jealous Nate Diaz." At the time of this video, Diaz had yet to respond to Gaethje. What do you make of this exchange? And do you think the Oliveira-Gaethje fight will go the distance? And who do you have your money on in this bout? Without UFC title, Michael Chandler says his career would feel incomplete. Michael Chandler is a 3-time Bellator lightweight champion, and while he's only been in the UFC for 1 year, he's already had the chance to fight for the UFC lightweight title, beating a top 5 lightweight contender at the time in Dan Hooker, and fought in the 2021 Fight of the Year against #1 contender Justin Gaethje. That's not bad for someone who only has a handful of fights in the world's biggest MMA promotion. As a 36-year-old Chandler gears up to take on Tony Ferguson at UFC 274 this weekend in Phoenix, Arizona, Chandler is doing the usual rounds of interviews to promote the fight. It's a great fight he's got lined up, as Ferguson is a killer and was at the top of the heap in the lightweight division for a few years. He's an unpredictable fighter who is always dangerous, just the type of fight that Chandler wants to get into for his legacy. In a recent interview with Ariel Helwani, Chandler was asked about whether a UFC title would make his career feel complete, and if the opposite is true as well. This is how the introspective Chandler answered this question.
Right now I say yes, it would feel incomplete, but my goal is that future Michael who does lay his gloves down for the last time and decides to retire, that I'll realize that chapter is over, the sun will rise the next day, and we'll move on to bigger and better things.
Chandler talks about how his current mindset is to capture UFC gold, but he understands that the route back to the title is littered with incredibly tough opponents, and sometimes things need to line up your way in order to get back into title contention. Just ask Tony Ferguson, who had several fights lined up with lightweight champion Khabib Nurmagomedov even before the Eagle was the champion, and it never came to fruition for a variety of reasons. What do you think about Chandler's comments here? Do you feel he will eventually get another crack at the 155-pound strap? And what about his fight against Ferguson? Who do you think will win that bout? Glover Teixeira is aiming for a smart strategy against Jiri Prochazka in light heavyweight title defense. Glover Teixeira has been laying bare how he plans to beat Jiri Prochazka in his first light heavyweight title defense this coming June in Singapore. Light heavyweight champion Teixeira and Jiri are on a collision course to headline the UFC 275 event that will take place in the Southeast Asian country. Glover won the title after submitting Jan Blachowicz this past October, just a few days after he turned 42, becoming the second oldest champion to ever win UFC gold, just behind Randy Couture. A veteran of 40 professional MMA fights, Glover is the champion for a reason. In Jiri, he'll be taking on a 29-year-old Muay Thai specialist who is on a 12-fight winning streak dating back to 2016. This fight will only be Jiri's third in the octagon, a quick ascent for someone with his skill set. He's already put away former title challengers Volkan Ozdemir and Dominic Reyes, knocking each of them out in the second round. That's why Glover feels he has to be smart to make sure he puts away Jiri for his first light heavyweight title defense. This is what Glover had to say to BT Sport about it.
Very good fighter. He's very dangerous because he moves and he throws strike in all different ways, and I just gotta be smart about this fight and do my thing, what I do, and just get in there and finish the fight.
Are you excited to see this bout on June 11th? Who do you have your money on to win this fight? And do you feel this fight will go the distance? Don't forget to take a second to hit that like button and subscribe to the MMA Zone to stay up to date on all of the latest fight news. Nate Diaz's reaction to Jake Paul claiming he could beat Canelo Alvarez. Canelo Alvarez is the pound-for-pound best boxer in the world, and Jake Paul has only 5 boxing bouts under his belt. Still, Jake Paul says he could beat Canelo, and now the entire fight world is taking it seriously. It all began last week when Jake Paul, who knows how to get a rise out of people and get the media machine churning for him, he stated that he could beat Canelo in a boxing match in a few years. Canelo didn't really dignify this with a response, as we all know what could happen if this actually does take place. Nate Diaz agrees that this is silly. Just check out this exchange when Diaz was told what Jake Paul has stated.
Jake Paul says he would beat Canelo.
Jake Paul's comments came from a conversation in which he stated he could beat any member of the Matchroom Boxing roster, and later stated in a few years he could beat Canelo. How delusional do you feel Jake Paul is? Burns explains his tears following loss to Khamzat Chimaev. The fight between Gilbert Burns and Khamzat Chimaev was an absolute war and was certainly going to be considered for a potential 2022 Fight of the Year. Some might even say it's the frontrunner right now. The fight was significant in being a massive jump in difficulty for Khamzat and a great test for Burns, as Khamzat didn't really have a lot of footage out there of him fighting because he's been so dominant, and Burns was going into this fight a bit more blind to what his opponent's strengths are than in normal circumstances. Eventually, Khamzat pulled off the unanimous decision win against the Brazilian after going the full 15 minutes. After the fight, Burns, admittedly a pretty emotional fighter, he cried after the judgment was read, not long after that. Now, over 2 weeks following that war in Jacksonville, Burns is telling us why he let the tears flow, and he prefaced it by saying that in his BJJ career as a black belt, he would get through a tough tournament and make the semifinals only for him to lose. He would get pats on the back from people, but it would never be enough to plug the hole that the loss left for him. This is what he stated happened after that UFC 273 event.
And I was holding to that cry, and every time that he tried to give me like a good prospect, a good thing, it would just make me more crazy. And then freaking Dana made me cry because he talked so much and I was so mad. And then whenever I walked out of the octagon, I was already crying. Like, I couldn't hold no more. But
it turns out he was holding tears back until Dana White came in to congratulate him on his performance, and the tears just flowed after that. Burns also stated that he felt he let his whole team down after all the hard work he put in training camp and feels he didn't perform up to the level of what he feels he can. Still, Burns is one of the top welterweights in the entire world, and it's unclear who he'll take on next. He's mentioned that he will continue to forge ahead until he captures UFC gold, most likely in the welterweight division. But what do you think of Burns' comments here? And who do you think would be a great opponent for Burns next time out? Today's video was packed with some juicy stories from the fight world. What are your thoughts about what's going on in MMA? Don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe to the MMA Zone to see more videos just like this. See you next time.